Welcome back to Let's Talk Business. I'm your host, James Price. This is episode 35, and we're in the nation's capital, Canberra, today. A chilly winter's day, but a lovely warm environment in the Ombudsman's office. The Australian Small Business and Family Enterprise Ombudsman, Bruce Billson. Thank you for having us.
James, fab to be with you and your audience, sir.
Oh no, it's great to have you as a guest.
Thank you.
I mean, if I didn't call you an ombudsman, I'd call you a champion for small business. Is that what an ombudsman is?
Well, in part, or you can call me Hey You. I get called all sorts of things. Bill a lot, and it's a discussion for another day. No, the ombudsman's role is an important part of the ecosystem. I should disclose, I created it when I was the cabinet minister because I saw some real gaps in the tools that small businesses had available to them. Your audience would know that a lot of the rules, competition laws, industry codes, even IP protections are in the federal jurisdiction. Yeah. And if there's a dispute arising, you try and work it out. And if you can't, you go to the Federal Court of Australia. Now that's $250,000. That's 2 years to wait. Tell me a small and family business that can do that. So I thought there was this need for a dispute resolution mechanism at a Commonwealth level, recognising the federal court is hardly a straightforward access to justice option, and that's what came about here. It was also clear from years in public life that the best intentions under the sun of public servants, of regulators, were bringing forward ideas impacting on or designed to help small business. And it looked like they hadn't actually talked to many. And then the last part of the story was, I'll introduce a phrase to you, anecdata. Recurring anecdotes masquerading as data. And we thought at this time of contested policy ideas, a real need for, strong arguments to support investment incentives, we needed a stronger evidence base. So they're basically the three streams that we do, and we tell stories about what enterprising men and women are up to.
So I guess you handled help with dispute resolution, but you're also an advocate for small and family business, aren't you?
Yeah, we do that. We turn up every day because small business people are busy running their business and don't have government affairs people in the halls of power, but still their voice needs to be strong and heard and persuasive. So we have a policy and advocacy function. It can come about in a couple of different ways. First might be of the 7,000 disputes we assist with each year.
Really?
We might see recurring themes, patterns. We might say to government regulator, hey, we think something's going on here. You should turn your mind to, or we surface case studies to help inform our input on policy proposals departments may have that we will lean in on. And I also have an inquiry power, so I can instigate my own inquiries about areas.
Right?
And that has limited sort of information gathering tools, or government can ask me for advice, and that's an inquiry where once I've done my work, the government owns the output. If I initiate it myself, I own the output, and that means what we can say about it afterwards has different disciplines attached to it.
I want to drill into some of the aspects, but before we do, how did you get into this area of small business? Because if I look at your background, I mean, was it the Howard government you were Minister for Small Business?
Yes. Well, no. I was elected with the Howard government in 1996. I was a Minister for Veterans Affairs, Defence Personnel, Defence Industry and the like, and did some junior minister work in Foreign Affairs, Trade, Indigenous Affairs. Then I became Shadow Cabinet Minister in the space and worked very hard to build up a really strong policy platform. And then with the election of the Abbott government, I was the appointed Cabinet Minister with a specific responsibility for small business and competition policy. And why I emphasise that was that part of Prime Minister Abbott's brief to me was go wherever you need to go to make the case to support small and family businesses. So whilst the actual programs that I may have been responsible for were quite specific, the opportunity to go into other departments, work with other ministers to say, hey, you're doing this and it's having a real impact. Can we work that through? Was not only something I was able to do, it was expected of me. And I think that's probably why I was reasonably effective in that role, I'd like to think.
But what made you good at it? Did you have a pedigree in business, or what do you have to be, how, I guess, how do you understand what a small business is going through? The positives, the negatives, the issues that are affecting?
Look, it helps in a number of ways to have been on that journey. I had an enterprising mother that was into direct selling and, complementing the income of a modestly, not even wealthy, I'd say. We had no loose change to throw around, but, that was part of it. I guess the community I grew up in, the economy was small business. So if that wasn't functioning, then opportunities and livelihoods were a real challenge. And as I moved through public life and other things I did before being elected to Parliament, it was a real central element of, living standards and opportunities. So it's kind of a bit inculcated in it. And then, over the journey, I've had a number of businesses, some good, some not so good.
Yourself,
my wife and I have had some, that pillow talk of cash flow at night, that's special. The landlord's haunting for a month's rent when it's been a quiet month for us, greatest contraceptive ever invented. But, it's, and then, a couple have been successful and some haven't. So it's a real deep conviction that this is a vital element of our community and of our economy, and someone needs to champion that, and I'm up for that every day.
So just on the vital element, I understand there's about 2.5 million small businesses in Australia. And I read one of your quarterly reports which sort of suggested, and I hope I'm right in paraphrasing it, that there's a reasonable percentage of those that aren't profitable. About 43%.
Yeah, well, more data's come out since that report. It's 46% now.
Really?
Yeah. Look, we've just had International Micro, Small and Medium Enterprise Day, and we've championed the case for enterprising men and women in small and family and farming businesses. Vital contribution, 2 in every 5 private sector jobs. Thank you, small business. 1/3 of GDP, 600 billion a year. Thank you, small business.
Huge.
And that's worth celebrating. But in 2006, that 2 in 5 jobs in the private sector was half.
Really?
The GDP contribution wasn't 33%, it was 41, 42. So what's happening is there is this contraction in the proportion of our economy and livelihoods that small business is enabling. And part of it, I feel, is, I think the enabling environment's not as supportive as it can be. It's a big responsibility and a growing responsibility to own and run a business, and people are up for that. But you see complexity, system sophistication. Even in an economy where there's, workforce constraints, for a young person thinking, what am I going to do with my life? Maybe there's some other possibilities. And when we look at what's going on, back in the 70s, 17% of small business owners were under 30. It's now 7.
Wow.
So something's happened.
So they're not wanting, young people are not wanting to get into
business? Seemingly, yet I try to stay quite close to young people, as you would say. I have some of my own. And the talk of self-fulfilling, purposeful life, choice, flexibility, a real locus of control I want to make, and the tempo and the opportunities that I'm looking for, you'd think that would resonate. But seemingly not. And so the demography around our communities also changing as well. The average age is 50. Now, if you really want to see growth and innovation, new ways of creating wealth, we know that small and family businesses need to be central to that. Yet, maybe that risk-reward balance is looking a little bit challenged right now. And I suppose a lot of our work is around what can we do to energize enterprise. There's regulatory challenges. Workplace relations is one of the most complex in the world. We've got changes in privacy coming at us, stuff around cyber. There's all sorts of, family and domestic violence duties and obligations. There's aspects of superannuation and the tax law that if your business doesn't meet the mark, then you're personally liable. We were talking before about financing. Half of all small business loans are secured by the family home. I mean, there's a lot of risk and challenge at a time when maybe the rewards aren't as succulent on a financial basis alone. those other virtues of being and shaping your own livelihood through your own business, yeah, they're there.
But I mean, I'm wondering though, like, is it that young people are just wimps? They're not prepared to take a risk.
Yeah, I don't see that. I don't see that. But they're quite rational people too.
Do you feel?
Yeah, I do. But I also see a lot of young people, describing something they do as a side hustle.
Yes.
Maybe not seeing it as a business. You know, it's a street wiliness. There's a sense there's value here, but maybe the way we frame it is a challenge. The other thing too, I'll be frank with you, I don't think we celebrate it enough.
Yeah.
How many people, like we've got a Prime Minister's Award for the arts, for science. That's great. I love that.
Yeah.
Where's the Prime Minister's Award for small business? Where's the articulation to the public that this matters, and to young people that there's some delicious possibilities here? Maybe it's for you. I just don't see we do enough of that.
I get energised by hearing you talk about that, and the side hustle issue is a really interesting one. I strobe around a number of markets for small businesses, including Western Sydney, and in the last 2 weeks I've come across 5 young early 20-somethings, all employed in a day job, all with the side hustle.
Yep.
And I can recount one lady whose side hustle is interior design, staging properties, right? She's been working at it for 4 months. She's had 10 clients. Yeah. She came to me and she said, "James, what do I do? This is exciting."
How brilliant is that?
I can see this is going to get a shape into a full-time gig, but where's the next step? There's a lot of complexities.
Yeah.
I'm really good at this. I know I can do this, but I know I've got to have a back office and operations, and there's all these things that I'm not sure which one first.
But this is where we get in. I mean, this is the business of running the business. Now, rarely is that anyone's jam.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm going to go home tonight and start doing my wife's bass. I'm so jazzed about that, I can't begin to tell you. But that's a part of it.
Yeah.
And for so many people, that's where the challenge is, that their value and their contribution and their proposition that they want to bring to customers who they want to delight, outstanding.
Yeah.
The business of running the business, a real challenge point. Yeah. What do I do about cash flow? How do I deal with the fact right now, 1/4 of all small businesses have 0 cash reserves?
Yeah.
Now, you and I know that old figure, 6 to 9 months, 12 at best of OPEX.
Yeah.
This is a real challenge point. But your story also is revealing in other ways. We're delighted about the number of women that are starting businesses.
Yeah.
34% now, which is exciting. But a majority of new businesses are being started by women. Often, and I know these are generalizations, so I apologise, often done by solving a real problem that their friends have then learned about, and before they know, there's their value proposition.
Yeah.
But also a different trajectory in the business. Women entrepreneurs tend to imagine their business taking off like an A380. Thoughtful, gracefully, measured.
Yeah.
Blokes, jet fighter.
Yeah.
It's going to be great. Tomorrow it's the world. Haven't got a sail out the door yet, but my goodness.
Times 10, times 100.
We are good to go. So there's a different trajectory.
Yeah.
And one of the things that we keep highlighting to policymakers is, you're not at 75K, you're not registered for GST. It doesn't mean you're not in business though. And if you don't see that person like you described and realise they could really benefit from support, we need to right-size regulatory expectations. But we also here's an opportunity to bring forward technology, digitisation, streamline the back office operations. I mean, these are where we lean in every day. It's not sexy stuff, but it might mean the difference between an idea becoming an investment, an ambition becoming an enterprise, or not. Yeah, and we think we should lean. Well, our language is there's lots of wind in the face right now. Yeah. We're doing what we can to abate that, but where's the wind in the sails?
Yes.
What are we doing to advantage those enterprising people? And that's where we get.
But I think it's exciting that there's someone championing that, right? Because I do feel that it is hard in small business. There's a lot of heavy weight. It's lonely. Yeah.
And at a time when there's no sloppy margins to be found anywhere, the idea that you've got time to involve yourself in advocacy, no, you're just keeping the door open.
That's right.
And so that's where we get involved, and departments and agencies might come to us saying, here's what we're thinking, what do you reckon? We'll give them a first blush, but say, you really should talk to this person and this person to get a feel for how this might operationalise itself in the field.
Yeah.
We might do some research. We've got a great data analytics team that pull out information that tries to put evidence where we know something's kind of a thing because of that anecdata.
Yes.
But how do we measure it? How do we say to policymakers, do this, and this is what we can expect can happen? Okay. That's where we lean in.
What about AI, Bruce? Yep. Do you think that that's a friend or a foe of small business?
Oh, it's both.
Yeah?
It's both.
Yeah.
I mean, it's both in that, again, if I'm running that business, let's call it staging business for real estate coming onto the market, I'll need a bespoke proposition for probably every client to show that I understand the market that I'm targeting, where my likely buyers to come from, and I'll probably need to describe the area. Yeah. I know people are using AI to say, give me the boring stuff on the neighbourhood and the suburb, and I'll put my magic in around what I think will be, to quote my inner John Travolta, the electrifying idea.
Yeah.
And so they're using that quite well. Businesses right now, they've got an unhappy customer. AI will write their letter of apology. They'll be able to distill a lot of information into some key points. Yeah. They can look to, they might have a team of people in the field of varying experiences, but they're using AI to take the best knowledge from the wisest team member and then sharing that across the whole team, including the newbies. I mean, there's all those possibilities, and we touched on some of the compliance issues. There's some real scope for it to streamline that, and I know a lot of the business systems providers are looking at that and are already using it for that purpose. They're the upsides.
Yes.
That's all about you bringing your value and the jam to what you do best and using AI to help you with the other stuff you've got to do. Flip side is, though, copywriters.
Yeah.
What do you do there? We're already seeing
very
it in
blurry, isn't it?
Wow, you're already seeing it in the accounting profession, where the compliance side of that discipline is getting increasingly automated by a range of tools, including data scraping with AI.
Yeah.
So they're moving up the value chain to be more of an ally of the business rather than a compliance assistance. So that'll change that. That'll change that. And, we talked about real estate. Billy Joel was talking about the real estate novelist who never had time for a wife, and in Piano Man, well, even that real estate novelist is looking different now.
Yeah, very different.
So I think it'll land quite unevenly. I think for a small business looking at those tasks of tedium, that they might not really enjoy. There's some great value and assistance to be found there.
Yeah.
But also, in terms of the value they offer to others, making sure that they are able to say, no, I do more than scrape available information sets to spurt out something that might be of use to you.
I think there's that element there that's really important, and it's hard when you're in the trenches as a business owner, no doubt. But it's eking out exactly what you're the best at, and being able to hold on to that and build a business model around it and use all the tools available, even though there are headwinds in some of those things. But knowing that when you go to the market, of all your bags of tricks, I'm really good at this. And I think, sometimes the sea gets rough and you lose sight of what that is. But
I agree with you. But let's pick footy, for instance.
Yeah.
You and I might kick magnificently from outside 50 on our right foot, and we can go and say we are great. We can kick from outside 50 on our right foot every day, and they'll see that as a key strength. But we won't get the opportunity to use that key strength if we're not credible on other areas of our game.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's where the AI can help. So I agree with you. Knowing what is really your specialisation, what's the magic that you bring, and the value and the real point of difference that sets you apart, I agree. But that alone isn't going to get you there.
I like
you
that.
need to stay tidy with the rest of the show, because you won't win points. Like if you can't meet your tax obligations, you say, oh man, can I kick outside 50? They'll go, that's fascinating, but you missed your last through PAYG installments. As interesting as that is, you've still got a compliance hygiene issue that you've got to keep that tidy, and then you can show your magic. It's not a substitute.
I like that. And I mean, we're in business valuation, one of our roles in our business. And what I call those factors is hygiene. I call them business health factors.
Yeah.
You've had a senior role in a valuation firm.
Yeah. Well, more an industry body. Yeah.
An industry body.
Yeah.
But from a valuation perspective, I wonder, do you have a view about the key things for a small business to look at in terms of enhancing and growing and managing the value of their business?
Yeah, look, that's interesting from a couple of angles. A lot of people start from the premise that small business owners want to grow their business. That's not right. A number, and Queensland Small Business Commission's done some good research on this.
Yeah.
They talk about people wanting fulfillment through their business. They talk about their identity being interwoven into their enterprise. They talk about, sorry for the jargon, the locus of control, that they feel they're in charge of choices and impacts and implications around their livelihood. And that is an odd frame, because that talks to stability in a world where it's anything but.
It's almost comfort.
That's right. They're like, look, I know the world's changing around me, but I'm making the calls, and I know what's going to happen because of them, and I like that.
Yeah.
And so the growth ambition is not there. It's something else. And so, even when I was helping with an online business growth tool that I was working with some folks out of the United States, what we started with at the very beginning was, what's your purpose? What do you hope for with your business? And not all of them want to grow.
Yeah.
Some want to grow and then hope one of those horrible multinationals that they hate will buy them out.
Yeah.
It's a bit like foreign investment in farming. Gee, you don't want too much foreign investment unless someone's buying my place.
They bring a pot of money.
It's like, oh, we want more competition. These big majority dominant businesses, they're ruining things. But gee, I hope they buy me out. So I mean, there's a little bit of that in the air. But the valuation issue, there's a real resilience frame to it right now.
Yeah.
Like, what's the durable quality and attribute that retains and carries forward the value? One of the concerns we have is that with the aging demography, there's a lot of baby boomer business owners wanting to exit.
There are. Many
of whom were assuming their business was the retirement nest egg.
That's right.
Only to find that the value has moved on, and the area's been disrupted. There's other ways of servicing customers. Buying an established business is an expensive entry point. You're better off going. There's all those sorts of things. And sorry.
No. I just reflecting on what you've said there about the business being a retirement nest egg. I get small business owners contacting me regularly, wanting the business valued with the view to retire. And not invariably, but on certain occasions, I have to say to them, look, it's valued at X, and their mouth just drops.
Yeah.
But they've actually received, but I said there's different ways of getting value out of your business. One is at retirement, if you sell it as a going concern, but the other is over time in terms of the return. But it's hard. It's hard news when you've worked at this business for 35 years. You're 65 and you and your partner want to retire, and the business is worth not basically net tangible assets, right?
Right. And it gets worse though if you're in a family intergenerational business. Dairy, I've been facetious, but people saying, look, I had so many kids hoping one of them would take on the business.
Yeah.
And that might be right, but is there any capital consideration?
Yeah.
None.
No.
So they're going, I'll take over your business, Mum and Dad. I haven't got any money to pay for it. Yeah. I'm just taking over the business. So they're sitting there thinking, okay, there's a generation worth of work with moo juice with no return. at the retirement stage, no realization of value of all of that work, but a continuation of the enterprise purely because it's been handed to the next generation. Now that does three things. That's not a great story for the retiring parents who are probably going to end up living on the farm, and you know, whether they wanted to break or not, they'll still be there. They'll still be there every morning knowing there's milking going on. Secondly, you know, so that limits their options. The second part of it is, okay, we've got a new business entrant coming in, and frankly, the cost of capital is not reflected in that business model. So you see people starting to take OPEX plus as their revenue, which has no capital renewal or capital value factored into it, which then distorts the market. For those that have borrowed $3 million to buy a dairy farm, they've got no chance in hell.
They'll never get in.
And so this is where, you know, we you know, they're the sorts of things that we've been thinking about. And then in that case, well, what could we have done? There's a capital gains tax a concession available where those funds go into a approved retirement savings account.
That's right.
But if there's no retirement savings account funded, then where's the benefit? Should we say to people, well, maybe through the life of the business, there needs to be more discipline encouraged in the business owners to provision for their own retirement, just as they're sending super guarantee contributions off for their team. I mean, and actually get that ethos in there, and maybe we incentivize it at that stage and forego. I don't know. I mean,
is that a bit like maybe the wrong parallel, but a bit like the farm management deposits process?
Similar. I mean, you know, and that was supposed to have had a little bit of that buffering, buttressing value. But no, it's just interesting, and we watch that and we think, gee, that's going to be tough, you know, in the advisory space, even broking, financial services, you know, tail commissions out of that. Well, maybe not now. You know, I mean, there's all these sorts of things that are changing around us. But then there's also this wonderful opportunity for young people, or not so young people, to engage without the upfront CapEx costs. You can be a retailer and have no store.
Amazing,
you can have a digital channel through Meta Marketplace or whatever the case may be, and that might be your issue. But that's the fastest growth area of disputes for us.
Is it?
Yeah, because you know someone will hack your account.
Yes.
And then Meta will say, "Oh, James, you can't get into your account. Wow.
Done.
Please get into your account to tell us you can't get into your account." Now, you know what an ultimate run around that is. But that might be the only channel to market.
Yeah.
So there's the upside of, okay, I've got an aggregator platform that brings me eyeballs.
And a low cost.
And a low cost entry point. I've got that risk. I'm also at risk of commodifying what I do, which goes to your point earlier about value.
Yes.
You know, I've either really got to be quite different, or people are going to look at everyone else on the platform and go, oh, that's the price of one of those things, and that'll be my price peg. I mean, so there's ups and downs, and
I think that's very interesting. I mean, the one positive thing I'd say about succession, business succession, and I'd stretch it to say business performance. When we first started our valuation practice many years ago, or 2 decades ago, people would come to us for a business valuation if they wanted to sell, or if they were breaking up with their family marriage, or they were, you know, a shareholder was moving out or a shareholder was coming in. They wouldn't come to us to just find out what was the fair market value of their business today and why, you know? And so it was very time and event based. Now, increasingly, I would say 50% of our valuations are people coming and saying, James, we want the option to potentially sell in 5 years.
Yeah. What do we need to do
What do we need to do? What's it worth today? Is there a chance of selling this for value in 5 years? And what does it need to look like? What are the elements? You know, what sort of return does it need to have? It's very dependent on me at the moment. I basically rule the roost. I do all the hard business decisions. My partner manages all the other aspects. You know, we've got key people here and here, but only to this degree. So there's starting to be that on a positive side.
Yeah, that's good.
I'm fine.
So it's the antidote to fattening a pig on market day. Yeah. They're actually looking at that.
They are. And not everyone, I would say, but I think they're using valuation as a tool to unlock wealth over time.
So what do you tell them?
Oh, well.
So what's the top 5? If you want to add robust value in a business in a 5-year window, what's the top 5?
That's a good question. I don't know.
I know it's your show, but you've just lost it.
Yeah, I have.
Let me ask you.
Can we start again?
No, keep going. What's your top 5? What would you tell them?
Okay. Customer base.
Yeah.
Make sure your customer base is diverse to a degree. Be careful if you've got concentration risk. Unless there's something very special about the customer, it'll be viewed from a valuation perspective in a potential purchaser as a risk. Yeah. In other words, if you've got 40% of your sales coming from one customer, bit risky.
Yeah.
People, 2 factors with people, so 2 and 3. One is ensure your team is relatively delegated and accountable for various aspects. Or if you're going to take on the bulk of the risk and the decisions, and you want to accept that, it's your right, then either know that you're going to be chipped when you sell, or you're going to have to leave some money on the table, right? If not, start to breed up people within the business too.
There's a book, I think it's The 4-Hour Founder. That's his purpose. He builds a business, so he spends no more than 4 hours in it.
Yeah, and then he moves.
Because then he says, I need to build the systems, and the reporting arrangements, the team, so that it's not dependent on me.
That's right.
And it's interesting that you've got a similar approach. So that's 3. Keep going.
That's 3. Culture is important. Culture in a business is very important. The best performing, financially performing businesses with sustainable earnings are the ones that have, from a small business perspective, they have a family culture, but it's more.
Yeah.
It's got all the good aspects of a family culture, but it's got the strive to improve incrementally through small bits of innovation along the way. And we used to be able to measure that. We didn't even go in and look at it when we were valuing a business. But today we spend a lot of time on that. Just pressure testing it and thinking about it.
What's number 5?
Number 5 is probably documentation.
Okay.
It's, I haven't talked about financial performance, right? That kind of goes without saying.
But I think that's a given. But
it's
you're
sort of
factoring things that'll nudge it up or drag it down.
These are the health factors that make it sustainable, right? I mean, sometimes, number 5, operations, let's call it, but it could be your supplier agreements.
Yeah, okay.
It could be the fact that, you're exposed to one form of supply for a large amount of your materials if you're a manufacturing business. Have you got fallbacks or have you got an agreement in place?
It's funny, we've just finished giving advice to government on ESG.
Yes.
A couple of dimensions to it. One, it's terrifying for some businesses. It's a familiar concept with a different name for other businesses. And for some, it's designed for other purposes and it's landing on businesses that just happen to be in the road.
Yeah.
And we're also saying, look, and then there's a political contest over whether it's wokeness with a new name or whether it's a continuation of John Elkington's triple bottom line from 35 years ago in a current form.
Yeah.
What we've said is it's about business durability.
Yeah.
Where are the risks? Where are the vulnerabilities? Where can things be knocked off course? And thinking about accounting for that. So there's a reporting value to it, but there's also an internal management and strategy lens on it as well, trying to touch on some of those factors.
Absolutely.
And then take the mystery away and then, say to businesses, key person risk is a big thing. And even when we were doing our disaster preparedness and resilience advice for government, people were talking about natural disaster. I said, there's often a bigger, more present risk, and it's you, because you're the haymaker. And if you had a health event or something like that, what would you do then?
Well, I recount a small business we valued at an 8 million turnover and a 3 million profit, owned by 2 brothers. And one brother was nearly killed in a plane accident.
Wow.
But it was highly dependent on those brothers, right? So they had 20 staff, but the brothers made all the decisions. They basically ran it. It was great culture, but the brothers decided that they wanted to run it. Now, the brother was only killed in a plane accident. He survived, and the business trucked on because there was two of them, and they shared the responsibility. But they got to the stage where they'd worked so hard over 30 years that they wanted to sell. And we valued the business, and we said, well, we think it's worth X. But we said, that's our professional opinion, but we don't think you're going to get that in the market because of the concentration risk around you two turkeys in the business. Because everyone's going to look at it and say, but I'm happy to pay that because the earnings are juicy, but what if you're not there?
We're going to handcuff you for 3 years as part of the deal.
Put you in gold,
right.
So,
well, I mean, that's the old workout, isn't it?
And look, that was the deal, right? At the end of the day, we went to 12 parties. They all looked at the business. The majority of them liked it. The majority of them said, James, it's an awesome earning business for a small business. But they said, we can't take the risk on those guys. So the deal was 50% up front, the rest over 3 years with performance hurdles based on the guys staying around. And it's it's one perfect example of that issue. Now, is it right or wrong? Should they have addressed it or not? Well, I think it goes back to the point that you made, Bruce, earlier about sometimes the objective is not just growth. Sometimes is I want to control my destiny. I want to run and make the decisions myself. And if you're taking the capital risk, why not? I guess.
Well, and you know, in this work that we were doing, the advice we were giving to government, it was interesting with family businesses. You talk about the factors that are characterised in the ESG framework. They go, we've been doing that for 100 years. Well, okay. So that's what they're now calling ESG. We just think it's being a good corporate citizen, a valued part of the community about respecting those who contribute to our success. And, you know, they'd rattle it off. And that was one of the things that, well, I can't say what we precisely said to government because they hold the report and can't talk about it till they release it. But it was basically saying, oh, okay, so you're just calling it something else. And we're sort of saying, well, maybe this focus on more familiar language and with a business durability and good corporate citizenry type lens will resonate more with people. Than you know, they might pick up the vibe about ESG and go, oh, hang on, what's going on here? You know. Anyway, so it was interesting. But those you know, those workouts, you know, they're kind of a bit like a work in. I mean, we've both done a few capital raises and the like, and, you know, for early stage businesses or even startups, they're investing in the folks.
It's hard, isn't it?
You know, well, it's the people. They go, well, if you're involved, I'll do this. If you're not there, I don't know. You know, and that's part of an interesting journey to be on as well.
Well, from your perspective, given your experience in that, and you know, you've had your foray in financial services as well. If you were advising a young startup that was needing seed capital, and it was basically the person that they were investing in, but you were advising that person as to how to go about getting financial backing, what are the things that they need to know, do you think, in terms of how they approach it?
Look, I mean, I've done a few of those, nothing like the number that you and your team have done, but it's hard at a startup phase to convey the tangibility around the proposition. Really hard to sell a spreadsheet. You know, so I think inherent to that is demonstrating the value proposition in some way, and that you can point to some market traction. That there's, you know, because it doesn't matter, and I'm sorry for this term, but it doesn't matter you got the best business plan, the best contingency framework under the sun. There's no substitute for customers. You know, there is no substitute for customers.
So in other words, commercialise the thing or work to...
I think so. I think getting as tangible evidence around the commercial value, the customer, who they are, what they're about, and how you think based on that actual evidence, you can make hay out of this addressable market. That talks. Otherwise, you're selling vapor. And that's tough. Now, some people might be prepared to do that. Like right now, the number of people running around saying they've got AI embedded in their technology. I mean, it's even led the ACCC to say, well, we've had greenwashing. There's now AI washing, which is code for BS powered by AI, saying my business is, I mean, this interview's powered by AI, apparently. No. I mean, but you know what I mean? So there's a bit of that where people go, that's impressive, but it's nonsense. And so by having tangibility, evidence, I think that
substance,
helps. Yeah, I think that's right now, and particularly in Australia, the venture market's quite punishing. If you and I are in the US, the deal flow's deeper, the risk appetite is more, and what you're expected to get for your money is less. So you and I might have a business, we think it's valued at $10 million. We've got great advice from James. We want $1 million to scale and go into some new markets. Here, the investors will want a third of the business, even half maybe.
Yeah.
Go to the US, they'll go, no, I'll take the valuation. Give me a little bit of love, 15%, $1 million, I'm in.
Yeah, it's a big difference.
$1 million, give me half a bit, the show. So that's challenging. And this is why I think, unless you're in, darling sweetheart streams where people are, basically...
They just want it.
I want a piece emotion. Of that, and I'm in for it. So, it's an interesting time to be trying to track, finance is the oxygen of enterprise. The banks are going safe. Show us your collateral is the first thing that many ask after you introduce yourself. We will pay a price. Like oxygen, too much of it, people go silly. Not enough, it'll stunt growth and opportunity. And I fear we're leaning a little more that way right now.
Yeah. So don't want to end on a negative. You look out 10 years from your experience and where you're at, and you're looking at small business closely right across the country, family business. What do you see, positives and negatives?
I see one enduring factor, and that's the greatest renewable energy in the country is the optimism of enterprising small business people. That is real.
Yeah.
And I think I'm hopeful that we'll see a deeper commitment across society and levels of government that we should be doing all we can to enable success for those people.
Yeah.
Why? Nature's been very kind to us. We've got hydrocarbons and precious metals underwriting our living standards for how long? I don't know.
Yeah.
We do need to find new ways of creating wealth and opportunity. It is almost without exception. People say, oh, that's small business will drive that. Well, will they? So my argument is, I've used this phrase for 25 years, engine room of the economy.
Yes.
We can't take cylinders out though.
No.
And that's where I think, there'll be a point in time. We're doing it now. Australia's productivity's down. Wow. Expensive place to do business. We're not paying our bills at the moment. This is a challenging time.
Yeah.
And as far back as when the G20 was hosted in Australia, I put on an SME dedicated segment there because all of those developed economies were saying we need to lift GDP 2% above BAU. How do you do it? Almost as a chorus. You energize enterprise with small and family businesses.
Yeah.
So I think that's not going to go away. Maybe the catalyst for change, that's something maybe we haven't quite realised. We need a little bit of a shift here to think about wind in the sails, not just abating wind in the face.
Yes.
We need to think about advantage and incentive and honouring, and I think, but that's all doable.
Yeah.
I'm optimistic that'll happen.
Well, we have the way of influencing it. It's just making those decisions, yeah.
Well, and for me, if you remember nothing from this interview, I believe the world's run by people who turn up. And I turn up every day, and I invite your audience, if you see things that could be better, turn up. There's one surefire way nothing will happen, and that is if you don't tell anybody.
Yeah.
But if you do turn up and make your point, make your case, bring forward your example and your experience, then that's a step towards better outcomes.
I'm glad we turned up to this discussion. I mean, it's been very energising, Bruce.
I'm sorry.
One last question. If you reflect back as a young guy in your 20s, did you ever think that you'd be here and would have the passion and knowledge of business that you say that I feel you've got?
Oh, I've always been a passionate person,
Yeah.
you know, and I've always sought to do worthwhile things for the air I've sucked in. And that's been in a few different things. I had hoped I'd be reflecting at this time of the year on my third Wimbledon championship, but that never arose, and I was too short to do well in AFL. Look, it's always been thereabouts because I suppose I inherently believe in people having a go.
Yes. Yes.
You know, a modest background in terms of my family. All I ever hoped for was a chance to be the best version of myself, without any gifts or good fortune or privilege. None of that came my way. And I believe that if you gave everybody that opportunity, good things could happen. I believe that in the small business world. You know, I enjoy being on the side of the small business community at a time that this is a big corporate economy. I enjoy that. That seems to sit comfortably with me as a raison d'etre. And so it's not surprising. It could have taken a few other different turns. At a 20-year-old, I almost bought an ice cream shop in Hervey Bay because I could, in North Queensland, because I could, or Central North. Queenslanders tell me that's almost Brisbane and Hervey Bay. You know, I thought, as a young man, I thought I could do this. I could buy a place that backed onto the beach. It'll be fab. Thought, maybe I won't. So, it could have. I'm no Gwyneth Paltrow, but there could have been other sliding doors moments on the way. So,
but who knows?
Who knows?
There's still hope.
There is. There is.
Ice creams might be on the.
Oh, look, they'll take off. Although I'll need to know my carbon emissions.
Bruce, thank you very much.
Good to be with you.
Yeah.